Hi guys, it's Airstuff FPV here presenting the build video of my first flying wing UAV for long-range FPV and endurance. Because it's a flying wing, it has the advantage in efficiency numbers compared to my other designs, which are V-tails, twin booms, and others. I installed an autopilot with GPS, which enables it to return to home and fly waypoint missions, and having my homemade 9600 4-cell battery in there enables the aircraft to stay airborne for over 2 hours on average. The aircraft has a wingspan of 1.35 meters and a total weight of 1.6 kg. The section underneath the aircraft is a hand-launched adjunct for flyers like me who are uncomfortable with side-tossing it the traditional way. Since it's hollow and directly under the center of gravity, it allows to install additional gear like pan and tilt devices to enhance FPV experience or another battery for close to double the flight time. Buying electronics like the motors, servos, flight controllers, and the materials were made possible by these awesome people, which are Jim Callan, Nicholas Ramallo, Hannity, Robert, and Jimmy O. So I want to thank you guys so much, especially Jim Callan, for contributing to my home build projects like this one and the next one to follow in a couple of months. And if you guys are willing to support me as well, click on this link which leads to my page on buymeacoffee.com. And that was the quick and brief intro about my new FPV flying wing design, which I named the Silver Heron. So let's get into it.
So at first I'm going to show you guys the electronics and materials, but the materials first, it's going to be mainly XPS foam board, 5mm thick, or call it insulation foam or Depron, and 5mm thick foam board as well. And for reinforcing critical areas, I've been using paint sticks, 5mm thick as well, but you could use plastic cards or other types of reinforcement. And as for the main spar, it's going to be a 14mm thick carbon fiber tube of approximately 80 centimeter length. And here are the main electronics for this build. If you want to buy the same electronics, there are links in the description and in the comment section pinned for you to check it out. So I'm going to start out by constructing the aircraft with the individual wings first. Here are the dimensions. I chose an 8-inch cord on this design and an individual span of 77.5 centimeters, but also soon to be cut in angle. So the first thing that you want to do is cover the whole outer sheet with packing tape. It could be colored like mine, which is silver packing tape from AliExpress, or you could just do it with clear tape. So to construct the angle, as you guys could see, you want to mark up the root cord and tip cord. For the root cord, which is on my right side, you want to mark 2.5 inches away from the very inner edge of the foam board, and then draw 2 lines to those points from the middle part. And then on the other side, which is going to be the tip cord or just the outer edge of the wing, you want to mark 2.5 inches away from that edge to the middle point, and then draw the lines from the corners. So here I went ahead and cut the lines out after marking the 2.5 inch dimension from the edges. Then repeated the process on the other piece of XPS foam, and then later on joined them together. And joining the two together would give a total wing sweep of 34.7 degrees.
And here I have to point out the most crucial and most important part of constructing the flying wing, which is knowing where your center of gravity is. The margin or tolerance of Having your center of gravity slightly away from its original spot is very narrow with flying wings and can decide it all at the maiden flight. So it's very, very important to know where your center of gravity is. This website does it all for you. You just fill out your dimensions and then it will calculate it for you. So if you have additional sweep or different root or tip core dimension, you would just fill those out in millimeters actually, and then click on update, and then it will show you your CG distance away from the leading edge. In my case, which I marked it in red, is 144.5 millimeters from the leading edge.
So now I'm gonna take a piece of foam board and mark these dimensions out, which is 50 centimeters in length and 25 centimeters in width. And this is gonna be like my fuselage section, in which every electronic will be on except for the servos, because they would be in the wing. So knowing the 25 centimeter width, I took half of that width and marked it out on each individual XPS foam sheet, and then paralleled those lines and cut them out. This is that when we're gonna construct the wing, which is basically an arm on the wing, that the XPS foam sheets don't overlap with the foam board fuselage part that will be glued on there. So here I'm gonna construct the wing formers, which are 3 1-inch strips as long as each wing sheet, and then glue that 1 inch away from the middle line, basically constructing an arm and wing with 3 formers. At this point, you want to glue on your permanent wing spar, which is, in my case, a 14 millimeters thick carbon fiber spar, approximately 800 millimeters in length. You could also use wood or aluminum, but carbon fiber is the most convenient. So after the spar section has dried up, you want to construct the sheets into wings. So I do it experimental airline style. You want to put some glue on the top part of the formers and fold the foam board sheet over it. And when that part dries up, you want to glue on the trailing edge section next. And when that part dries up, you want to cut off the excess, fold some tape over it, and then it's done. So now you want to cut out the excess, which is like the pointy section of the flying wing, and then start covering up the whole surface area of like the inner part with XPS foam until like the bump created by the wing spar has been covered up, because that's going to be where the flat piece of foam board section is going to be glued on. And this is all dependent on how thick your wing spar is that you glued in there. If you have like 8 or 10 millimeters, so less in diameter wing spar than me, you would only need 2 or 3 of those layers to cover it all up. But because I have a 14, or if you have greater, you would need 3, 4, or even 5 layers of XPS foam to cover it all up.
And then I took the foam board and glued it on the XPS layers with the front part, so the front edge of the foam board being 12.5 centimeters from the XPS layers. And with the foam board in place, I turned the construction around and repeated the process on the underside of the construction. And it's optional, like me, as you guys saw, to have the back part of the construction tapered for the prop later on, that when we finish up the aircraft, the prop will receive more cleaner air and make less chopping noise. And as you guys see, I glued in a piece of wood, a piece of paint stick for additional strength when my heavy battery is going to be all up in the front. And then I took some more XPS foam to make the bottom equal with the rest, and then flipped it all over and cut out the excess. And here's a section that I didn't record all the way, but here I'm taping on the control surfaces, which are elevons, and they are 1.5 inches in width and as long as the wing itself. So this part right here is a foam board hand launching adjunct, and this is totally up to you. This isn't an essential part of constructing a flying wing, but this is simply for guys like me who aren't comfortable with launching it the traditional way, which is by side toss or overhead. Now what this will enable us to do is, when it's been glued in place under the center of gravity, it will always guarantee a straight, solid, and firm hand launch, basically like the Synapse flying wing design of experimental airlines, and have it always track straight. With the side toss, it's always like the aircraft yanks itself to one side and then corrects itself, but this could be additionally nerve-wracking for like the first flight or when you have never built a flying wing before. Here I just applied a taper to the hand launching adjunct for better aerodynamics. And then I flipped the construction around and marked where the hand launch adjunct would be glued in place, and then extended the lines of the center of gravity location and then glued it in place. So here's the construction of, I don't know what to call this, kind of like nose hatch type of construction. But these are my dimensions, and after I lined them out and put tape over them, I cut the shape out and then made a mark at where the whole construction tapers, and then made a fold at that spot as well. And then I put the hot glue on and glued it in place. So the next thing that you want to do is know what the width is of your nose hatch construction, and then take a long piece of XPS foam and basically make the cover for it. So I first put clear packing tape over it, and then when everything was done and cut into shape, I put an additional layer of silver packing tape. Then I cut out the section for the ESC for better airflow and cooling. And then I cut halfway through the Depron to be the folding part, because not everything will be glued in place. There would be one section to be glued, and then the rest will simply just fold open and close. And here are the dimensions for my wingtips, which are in wingtip fence configuration. And these are quite important for your directional stability. So after I was done with the nose hatch construction, I put in all the electronics, meaning the video transmitter, the receiver, GPS, flight controller, wired everything to it, and then went on to iNav to configure the flight controller with its settings for a flying wing. And then it was basically done. The aircraft was done for its maiden flight. That's incredible. Very docile.